everyone? Welcome back to another Tucker Tuesday. I almost said AAA meeting. How we doing out there tonight, guys? Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone's having a lovely, lovely day out there today. Oh, sorry. I'm a little out of breath. I literally ran back into the studio. Oh my god, my wires are tangled. Oh boy. That's very irritating. I have a big clean I have to do here. Just being very lazy about it, I suppose. Doing good? Well, that's good. That's good. Hey, Sen. Hey, Joshua. J. Kate, what's going on? Shadowclaw, Bookworm. Alec, hello. Shiru. Man, we got a lot of good stuff. Oh, shit, we had a dono already? Really? Hold on, let's see.
I will trap Santa in my box, locked up like Fort Knox, and make him stop my clock.
New dono unlocked. Let's see what this one does. Well, that's what that one does. Certainly an interesting one. Thank you, Fostonia. Much appreciated. Fuck yes, he had a dono. I've read it. Oh, you guys seem to like that one? Very good. I'm glad you did. I get worried with some of these new ones, man. Like, I don't know if people are going to like them or not. And I don't know. It gets me sometimes. It's like, oh, boy. I like this one, but it could be a flop. Santa locked up and does what? There we go. That's what we'll call that one. Robot Chicken for the win. I mean, Robot Chicken is pretty. It is pretty S tier. Robot Chicken is pretty S tier. 20 minutes to the iron. Nice. I had such a damn good workout today. I was sore when I left the gym. Usually it takes a couple hours, but man, I had a good one today. Pretty sure we know crude stuff and violence amuse us easily. That's true. That's true. I do have a fair bit of violence. That mailman 45 or even 90 are just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I don't remember what the 101 penny is, the 150 or the 500 though. I made those last year and I don't remember what they are. Yeah, I'm all shoulders on it. But I do know that if somebody does decide to be an absolute gangster and hit the 500 today, that I have one more McKinley package that I found cleaning out my stuff at the studio. I'm almost done with that. I have, what's today's date? The 25th. I have a week and 3 days to prep. I have a week and 3 days to prep for a very super secret project. I have a week and 3 days. So that should be pretty good. Almost done. I got a little bit left to do. I'm taking it easy, though, not doing everything all at once. Baba Yaga, hello, hello. I wish I could. I'm more broker than 10 Commandments. Hey, man, it's a steep thing, but you get a dope package. There's a few people out there that have gotten the McKinley package, and I'm pretty sure they were very pleased with what they got out of it. There was just I'm 90% sure. I'll go check in a second. Enough stuff to put one more package together. Super secret dog. It's going to be cool, man. It's going to be pretty cool. I still have mine. And did you like it? Did you like it? Because I know it's a dope little package. It's a dope little package. All right, we're going to get into this, guy. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to get into this, though, guys. Smash that like button. Share it out on your social media. And should you feel so inclined, please hit up the Streamlabs. I should be broker than 10 Commandments. That's pretty good. I love surprise, but not really, so tell me. I promise I won't tell anyone. Maybe I'll tell you. Maybe I'll tell you, Baba. You guys smash that like button, share it out if you feel so inclined to hit up that Streamlabs. We have had quite the violent drought, even over the Sunday and yesterday streams, so violence very much appreciated and very much wanted. Right now, we're going to get right into this, so let's get to.
In every story that matters, how to tell.
Let's get to the speech.
Amazing. Thank
you. Oh my gosh.
Stop the violence? No, more violence. We need more. More.
Thank you for having me. Yes! Thank you. The smoke machines are so affirming. Wow, this is, thank you for having me. Thank you. It's funny, I was just standing, first of all, may I say, go Megyn Kelly. I mean,
this is a good speech. I have not watched a second of it. I've avoided Twitter clips, everything I could. And I'm going into this raw. I have not seen a single thing.
That was awesome.
How's the volume out there, guys?
Thank you. It's pretty. Thank you. I don't think most unemployed people get a reception like that. And in a recession like this, to find yourself without a job and people still being nice to you is like unbelievable. I was standing on those stairs. No, I have a job. I'm just kidding. Well, I love you too. Thank you. I was standing on those stairs and I saw the intro and I was like, that's the most TV I've watched in 3 months. And I have to say it feels.
Could you imagine working on television, then you get fired? We got to be honest about it. He was fired. You get fired from your television job. Would you ever watch television again? Like, probably not, especially not when you're Tucker and 90% of your stuff is, like, news.
Feels absolutely great. Thank you very much for having me. Roger Stone, ladies and gentlemen. All the cool people are here. It's like unbelievable. Wow. Yeah, I haven't been around a ton of people in a while, but I never miss this event ever. And I meet the nicest people, really, that I ever meet at these. So thank you for having me. I just flew in from Iowa. Thank you. Which is a wonderful state, and it followed. If you ever travel domestically, remember, the worse the weather, the nicer the people, and the more fattening the food. And so that state, worst weather in the world, nicest people, and I met basically your Republican field. They're -1. Yeah, exactly. So I got a chance to interview the Republican presidential field, again, minus the front runner.
The Republican presidential field from these interviews looks very daunting. It's just it's a neocon convention. That's all it is. And I think that's what we've seen. And this might not be a very popular opinion, but as far as I'm concerned, neocons are just blue Republicans.
And it was completely fascinating. And as it always is to be around politicians, politicians are a group that I despise on principle because they tend to be soulless. And have kind of barren and sad personal lives, and so they, spend their days trying to win affirmation from people they've never met. It's pathetic. But in real life, no, it's true. They all have alcoholic or abusive fathers to whom they're trying to prove something. But in practice, in person, they're all super charming. There's not a politician in the world who's not charming. That's why they went into this business. It was either that or selling cars, and this was more lucrative, so they went into it. So I like almost all of them when I meet them.
Not a single one aside from Trump opposes the Ukrainian war. It's not even that. It's not that they oppose the Ukrainian war. It's a lot of these people are pro sending other people's children to die for their financial gain, which I just find generally extremely appalling. I'm a big fan of violence, but fictional violence and cartoon violence, like in the Donos. I'm not a big fan of actual children being killed for Chuck Grassley, Mike Pence, and Lindsey Graham to make themselves feel better.
You can't not. They can talk about anything. They've mastered the sort of shallow small talk over coffee, which I definitely appreciate. That's an acquired skill, and they've worked hard at it. But I have to say, after spending all day with them, I learned a couple of things which I think may be relevant to you and to the country. And a couple of things, and I don't want to attack anyone on personal grounds, or by name.
Hot take, neocons are blue Republicans. Yes. Sin, that take is buried in permafrost. There's nothing unpopular about it. Oh, you would be surprised, sir. You'd be surprised how many people are bending over backwards to defend people like Mitt Romney and Lindsey Graham. I saw one the other day. Tucker is the new person of attack by, and Matt Gaetz by Fox News conservatives.
It's tempting. I will say it's tempting. Whoever said do it, you're the devil on my shoulder. Do it!
Make right, and my thing is even though Trump is the only one who opposes the Ukrainian war, he is just about in lockstep on 80% of the rest of the issues. I think I think we need a new Republican field because they're at this point they're almost indistinguishable besides random little bits and bobs. I think neocons are hands down the worst. Hands down the worst political field that exists right now, based off nothing else than they are literally lying to their constituents. Call to Curl, Mitt Romney and Lindsey Graham are contemptible snakes. That's putting it lightly. Vivek is pretty savvy. There's a couple out there that have their finger on the pulse and know what they're talking about, but we all know 99% of Democrats they're just part of the progressive religion. They're part of the progressive religion. The government voting blue will change. Ah, fuck. Let me put this sentence together in my head before I let it fall out of my stupid face. Voting Democrat will change the weather. Trans people should be able to get naked in front of kids. Like it's just not. They're just not there. They're not there.
I've spent my whole life. No.
And Republicans are 1.5 steps beside them.
If I could make some general observations, which I think are more edifying than just like savaging Mike Pence, I think, which I'm not going to do, because that would be wrong, and it would be wrong because it's too easy. And the easy things are not rewarding, are they? You don't feel good when you beat your 5-year-old in soccer or ping pong, like what? But I did learn a couple of things. It was super, super interesting. The first thing, I guess I already knew it, and you know it already, that's why you're here, which is the spread between the things that Republicans in Washington, the people you vote for and put there, care about, like actually care about, pretend to care about a lot of things, but the things that really touch them off, that matter to them, very different from the things that matter to the people who vote for them. And you kind of thought that would change, because we did have an event several years ago where Republicans elected a guy basically on the promise to blow up the Republican Party, and you thought, that would get their attention if your wife runs off.
The minute Trump got in office, he should have cleared everybody out. All of Obama's people, all Bush's people, whoever was there, he should have cleared everybody out. That was his downfall.
Off with the pool boy, it's like time to reassess your skills as a husband. Like you got to pause just for a moment and be like, yeah, it's bad, but maybe I contributed to her behavior. Most self-aware people, and I'm being serious, ask themselves that question. Like, how was I responsible for this bad thing that happened? But there's been literally none of that. It's been all blaming the pool boy in Washington. So I don't see that changing at all. Maybe it'll.
Somebody on Twitter got real mad at me because let me see if I can find the tweet. I pointed out something that really pissed him off. I got indicted again. It's time for you to give me more of your money. Yes, Trump. And I retweeted it with a gif of Donald Duck counting cash. Someone's like, they deleted and or changed their comment. They were like, fuck you if you're anti-Trump now. And then someone else said, are you anti-Trump? It's like, no, I'm pro-reality. I see what's around me. Anytime anything ever happens with Trump where he gets in trouble, gets arrested, gets put in the news, an email gets sent out, and I am/was on that email list. And it's like, I need your support now more than ever. It's like, no, I just see the reality in front of me. It's not being anti-Trump, that's being pro-eyeballs. When I was younger, I used to hate Tucker. Now I can't help but find the man so endearing. He really does talk like he is being honest, I guess would be a good way to put it. Like, he talks like he is speaking on a human level, and whether or not he is, I don't know. I cannot see what is going on in his head and in his heart, but he talks like it, and that's better than 99% of politicians that exist.
We'll take a next election cycle to do that.
I too am on Team Eyeballs. I assume most people would be on Team Eyeballs. Like, I'm noticing a pattern that every time Trump's headline on CNN, the donate to me email is going out soon.
But the second more interesting thing I learned is that almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody in elected office in the Republican Party has internalized the other side's rules for debate. And if you think about that, there's no really more self-defeating way to go into politics or life than to accept the terms that your enemies offer before the conversation's even begun. Because there's really no winning. In other words, if you and I are arguing about something, but I've already decided you're right.
Oh, and I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier. I keep forgetting because it's been a while. We have new Pinky songs if someone decides to join a club tonight. I think going forward, that's going to be the rule of thumb here. If someone joins a club, whether it's the McKinley or the Stacker Club, we get a song. And I think for a short time, that whenever it happens, whether it's here, AAA, whatever, whenever we fill the bar up next, we need a horsecock.
Probably not going to get very far, right? And you see this on the big issues. In fact, the biggest issues without variation. It's always the same. The Republican goes in knowing in his heart he's wrong. And I feel like there are probably a substantial percentage of Republican voters who do the same without knowing it because they don't have any idea it's happening. So for example, during COVID, there were people who didn't kind of play along. We knew what the rules were. And every organization in American life, every large group of people in America.
Shit, I gotta go turn up my AC. Give me a second.
American life from your government to the entire media, in some cases your church, we're all telling you the same thing. Here are the rules. If you are a good person, you will follow these rules. You will mask, you will separate, you will stay at home, you'll take our shot. No.
Yeah, if you're a good person and you do what we tell you, if you listen to us, you're morally a good person. But also, it's Republicans' fault that this virus is so bad, so you need to vote for us in order to still be a good moral person. When did being able to control the spread of viruses and the weather changing turn into a political issue? Remember when the government being able to control the weather was a conspiracy theory? Now we can fix it by just voting for blue people.
We have no idea what's in it. We don't know its long-term effects, but shut up. This is a moral test, and if you want to pass, you will obey. And there will be people who decide to opt out, but they are, and everyone agrees.
You know what? That's fine. I don't want to pass. I don't want to be moral in the eyes of someone who views me as immoral for not sharing their opinion on fluid issues. Like, that just seems silly. It just seems silly. And I'm just going to put this out there. If you got the vaccine, that's perfectly fine. If you had to get it for your job, that's perfectly fine. No one's judging you for it. But I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, from the depth of my soul, none of us who didn't take it regret not taking it. I don't care about your moral grandstanding.
On this, moral criminals, they're outlaws. And it's...
If it were up to them, we, I say the royal we, well, me included, but we who did not take it would be outlaws if it were up to them.
Well, I mean, given there's a certain sort of outlaw who's proud of it. They're sitting over there, they're standing right here. I mean, there are always some people. There are always some people who are going to be or gifted with whatever that weird gene is. It's like 8% of the population who are proud to like stand apart and be like, no. But most people, including most good people and most sensible people, don't want to be in that 8%.
Baba Yaga, that's a good idea, or that's a good point. That is a good place to be, is on the bad side of a politician. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just don't. They don't want to be cast out of the tribe, actually. I don't know what you said, but I agree with you. I'm the only speaker who likes being shouted at. Anyway, but that's it. But the problem is nobody pushed back on the fundamental terms. Like, wait a second. You know, is there evidence for this? Do you know this to be true? Don't Americans have an inherent, which is to say a right they were born with, an inherent right to make their own decisions about how they live on the most basic level, what medicine they put in their body, where they travel? Nobody said that.
And the one thing I wish a lot of Republicans would understand is that that goes all the way around. That goes for everything. You know that thing you don't agree with? That goes for that too.
And of course, the media never presented that as an option. You saw this in the war in Ukraine. It began, and the first thing you knew, I mean, you
see a lot of people in the chat saying they were forced to get it for work. And that's fine. I understand. That sucks. No one's mad at you for it. But as long as you weren't preaching that people need to get it or else, then you're good in my book.
You could have like divergent opinions, I guess, about which weapon systems to send. But you were told at the very beginning that, you know, Russia was our enemy. One thing we know about this is that one side is bad and one side is virtuous. And, you know, I think a lot of decent people would reach that conclusion independently. I'm not contesting that. I think it's completely fair to think Russia's bad and Ukraine's good. But it's also within bounds to not agree with that. Because if you're an American, you have the right to decide who you hate, okay? That is a fundamental right. No one is allowed to force you to be mad at somebody else. If you're an adult, you get to decide. And you get to decide on the
whoa. Holding the clicker down speeds it up. That's new.
basis of whatever criteria you want. You get to decide. And you get to decide on the basis of whatever criteria you want. And it's totally...
I mean, yes, but I reserve the right to say that if you hate somebody for any of their immutable characteristics, skin color, sexual orientation, whatever, you're an asshole. You cannot like them, but you're an asshole.
It's fair to say, well, I don't know. I'm not mad at that person. You're not a criminal for thinking that. It's not a criminal act not to hate somebody.
Shiru said, bring on the violence. If anyone's willing to drop the violence, then bring it on. Yeah, I am all types of down for violence. I think we need it now more than ever.
So it's totally fair to say, well, wait a second. You know, it's not an expression of love for Russia to say they haven't killed any Americans. Why is that crazy? That's true. I said to one of the candidates yesterday, I mean, look, I've never been to Russia. I'm not that interested in ever going. I don't speak Russian. I'm born in this country, kind of probably plan to die here. Hope to. But let's just do the body count. So what's the total number of Americans murdered by Russia?
Exactly. It's your right to be a dick, but I'll still call you on it. Yep.
In the last 3 years. I'm thinking I'm not great at math. I think it's around 0 in that range. I don't know any. I do know 2 people well personally who've died from fentanyl that was manufactured in Mexico and allowed by the Mexican government to come here. Now, I'm not against Mexico. I grew up right next to it. I kind of like Mexico, actually. But the Mexican government allows that. And over 100,000 Americans die every year from that poison.
100,000 is a soft estimate. I bet you it's damn near double that.
Not because they were drug addicts who took too much, but because they were poisoned. Because they were taking a pill they thought was something else, and it turned out to be fentanyl, manufactured in Mexico and allowed by the Mexican government to come here. And so that's 100,000 a year. That's hundreds of thousands of Americans dead, mostly.
It's in the drop. That's a drop of the bucket compared to opioids. That's kind of what he's talking about, is a fentanyl crisis because of opiates and the shit that they're putting fentanyl in everything. Now, it is, I got to tell you, I have personally seen what this shit does to families. Like, we put my cousin in the ground not super long ago. Like, this shit is terrible. It is a literal plague on America, brought up from Mexico, allowed by the government, and ignored. Not only ignored, but almost encouraged by the shitty, fucking terrible border practices we have on the southern border.
Young people. Well, or sure, or more. Or more. So if you had a country that allowed hundreds of thousands of your fellow citizens to die at, say, age 23, and I'm sure every person in this room knows someone or knows someone who knows someone who's died.
I personally know probably half a dozen people who have died from this.
It's not some abstract epidemic. It's so big that everybody knows somebody. It was like the height of the pandemic. An outlaw I know, possibly my wife, said to somebody, how many people do you know who've died of COVID? And I was like,
one of my best friends, her brother died last year from this, and she's still just destroyed.
Well, you know, a lot. Well, who are they? Well, like a friend of mine's, her grandparents died. What was her name? I don't know, his grandparent. How old was she? Well, you know, late 80s. Okay. How many people do you know who've been injured by the vaccine? Well, a ton. So, I don't know, at a certain point, you can draw conclusions from that. A scientific assessment? No, but it's not irrelevant. So on the question of Russia, if you begin the conversation with, this is an evil country that has hurt America and we have to go to war with them, well, then there's kind of no debate about it, is there?
If that were Russia, if Russia was doing some kind of chemical, I don't even know what you would call it, chemical push? Chemical, something like this. If this were Russia and there were Russian immigrants coming in by dinghy with fentanyl that killed 100,000 people, we would have nuked Russia months or years ago. But it's not.
I mean, no one would defend Nazi Germany. They killed many tens of thousands of Americans. You can't defend them. No decent person would defend that. But in the case of modern Russia, you're not even allowed to think that.
Yes, biological warfare, yes.
And once you're prevented from thinking something, you are completely controlled by the person who's convinced you of that. And the effects of this to me, just as an observer, I mean, in my life, I just try to stay unaffected by the propaganda. That's like the main goal of my life every morning. Just to stay unaffected, just to look around and try to assess things cold. What are we looking at here? You don't have to be a genius to do that at all. It doesn't even, I'm not a genius, that's for sure. Just look.
Me neither. I just have the ability to look with my eyeballs, to see what's around me, to notice shit in the world. And I know you're not supposed to notice a lot of things. I know noticing things is bad, or bringing up shit that you see is bad. But frankly, I don't give a shit. We need to stop ignoring reality and deal with shit as it is. Nothing is ever going to get done. Nothing is ever going to change if we ignore what we see in front of us. It doesn't matter. I am sick. Like, this one tweet I saw fucking floored me. Shuan had posted about seeing the Sound of Freedom movie, and people in her comments started calling her an alt-right neo-Nazi for going to see it because it's a movie about child trafficking. They said, you're going down the QAnon alt-right Nazi rabbit hole or something like that. And it floored me so bad. Like, no, you realize trafficking, especially child trafficking, is a major fucking issue. It is a major issue. And having a movie about it is probably a good way to draw attention to it. It's not an alt-right rabbit hole to talk about children being shipped around the world for nefarious purposes. It's not even, they're not paying attention. They're outright denying what's right in front of them. The same thing goes for Republicans, like I talked about earlier, talking about how Trump does this shit every time something happens and how he missed all of his opportunities he needed. That doesn't make me anti-Trump. That makes me pro-eyeballs. Reality is not always black and white. We need to be honest about what's in front of us.
Like what?
That's a good point for a shill, but I can't think of one, so violence, please. Violence now. Me, a violence needing a lot now.
What does this look like? Drive across America for 3 hours. Is this what you were?
Yeah, no, if you don't go see Cuties, you're morally bad, but if you see the movie about child trafficking, you're even worse.
Remember from 5 years ago? Does it look better or worse? Are there more people sleeping on the street? Is it dirtier? Is there graffiti? Graffiti? Ooh, graffiti. What is graffiti? That's not art. It's vandalism.
Some graffiti can be art, though.
And when it's allowed to stand, what does it say? We've given up. We don't care. We're allowing people who create nothing to destroy what we built, and we're not fighting back. Graffiti is like one step from total society collapse, period. What you're saying when you allow graffiti is we have no self-respect at all. We don't care enough about our civilization to keep it clean, to keep it pretty. Previous generations.
I actually watched that video. There's some salty cunts in the comments. Oh, what the Shuan Head did a video about it. It's just insane to me that these people go, let people make movies. Oh wait, this is a movie I don't like. Don't see that one. The corpos didn't want border patrol. They want the drug fried people floated by illiterate illegals to exploit for their gain. Leftists don't want border patrol because they're repulsively retarded. GOP Inc. just wants to be a rubber stamp. They are 99% of the GOP is neocons, and neocons are paid opposition. You're going to have a hard time convincing me otherwise of that. You're going to have a real hard time with that. Thank you, C. Thomas. I appreciate the 5. We are almost 10% to goal.
Worked their whole lives, gave everything they.
No, not all graffiti is destructive, but graffiti is graffiti. There's a fine line between art and some gangbanger putting their name on a fucking wall.
They had just to like put in sidewalks, just to put in gas lines, just to build concrete buildings, and we're letting someone who's never done anything of value for our society destroy it with vandalism, and we don't have a problem with that. Well, no, it's not a big deal. It's just graffiti. They're graffiti artists. No, this is a sign of the collapse of civilization. Period. But you're not allowed to think that. So if you allow propagandists to set the terms, and if you're playing soccer against somebody and he's like, here, totally fair match, we're evenly matched. The thing is that when I score a goal, it counts, and when you do, it doesn't. Totally fair. Let's just agree to that. Probably not going to win. But yesterday, I sat and watched. I kept my temper the entire time because it's not up to me who the...
brand new dono idea, graffiti. You're going to have to send me over what you're talking about. I don't remember that bit in the movie.
Republican nominee is at all. Just an unemployed talk show host, so I thought I'm going to try to keep myself out of it. But I raised the question. It's a completely fair question. There are clergy in Ukraine who are being thrown in prison. Convents raided.
Oh, you're really not allowed to talk about this one. You are really not allowed to talk about this. If you bring up the fact that they're arresting Christians in Ukraine, oh boy.
nuns kicked out, priests handcuffed, thrown in jail. So, I mean, on one level you think, well, it's not my country. You know, they do all kinds of barbaric things around the world. You can't be upset about all of them. Much more interested in what's happening in El Paso than I am in Kiev. On the other hand, if I'm paying for it, and if I'm sitting here listening to moral lectures about how I have to pay for it or else I'm a tool of Putin, I think it's fair to ask, like, what is that? Throwing priests in jail? And so I asked a self-appointed Christian leader about that, and I said, what do you think, as someone who's spent his life advocating for religious freedom, about raiding nunneries and throwing priests in jail? And he said with a straight face, well, they had the wrong views. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize what the boundaries were. So you have...
Now, even as a Jew, you can't talk about it. You can't even talk about it as a Jew because it's Ukraine and they are the untouchables. Off topic for the stream, but why are people speculating Chantel is on her way back to Canada? Because she hasn't uploaded in like 4 days or something. I thought she was dead until yesterday.
Religious freedom or freedom of speech or freedom of assembly, as long as you stay within the lines. But if you express an unapproved view, then you go to jail. But that's freedom, isn't it? You do exactly what I tell you to do, or else I imprison you. Is that the freedom that you recognize? No, that's insane. And so that irritated me. And I said, well, but don't you think as a Christian leader you should say something when Christian clergy are imprisoned for their views?
No, absolutely not, because they're Ukraine and nobody's ever allowed to down on Ukraine, period, full stop. They are the untouchable.
No. And how dare you say that? And this person was joined by a chorus of people on the right. Yeah, shut up. Shut up. National Review wrote a piece this morning. Shut up, it's bigoted to notice that Christians...
See, now that's a better point to show. Violence and Ukraine. I would like to see some violence and Ukraine. We have over 150 people watching and 59 likes, guys. That's terrible. Smash that like button. Share it out on your social media. Should you feel so inclined, please hit up that Streamlabs. We have one McKinley package left. If we fill up the bar, get a club of some kind or whatever, we can get a song and a horsecock, or maybe and. I don't know. We'll see.
Christian clergy are being imprisoned in Ukraine.
Probably both.
And my view would be, maybe you care, maybe you don't, but if you're a Christian leader and Christians are going to jail for their views, you are required to say something. And
you indeed are.
If you don't, you're not much of a Christian leader. And by the way, the person I was speaking to is a person, I think, of real faith and of decency. Like, I would let him babysit my kids. Not for long, but for dinner. I mean, I don't think he's like an evil person. He's not a secret serial killer on Long Island or something that I know of. But he, with a straight face, told me this. And he said, but what Ukraine really needs, and I say this as a Christian leader, is more cluster bombs.
You mean war crimes? I would just like to point out literally every president we've had in the past, 50-something years has been a war criminal. God, this is such a good fucking movie.
This is a gangland thing, isn't it?
Okay, I'll make that into a donation for sure, Fostonia.
And I thought, you know who it was. And I thought to myself, more cluster bombs. Now, I am not a Bible scholar. But I'm pretty sure, having read 4 out of 4 Gospels, that like Luke 17 doesn't call for shower cluster bombs on the children. In fact, I'm just going to go out on a limb as a non-theologian and say the overriding
Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Dahmer and Blitzen.
That's a good one. I don't know what this does, but I hope it's a good matches your request. It's good, but it does not match. But it's a good one. Thank you, Darkwill. I appreciate it, buddy.
Of the New Testament is bring peace. And this person, because that's what it says. And this person with a straight face got almost weepy at the prospect that the government that's imprisoning Christians doesn't have enough missiles and tanks, which is, maybe it's, fair position. It's not a legitimate position for a self-described Christian leader to have. It's just not. I'm sorry. That's disgusting. And this person said to me, we need to do this because that's what leadership looks like. And I thought, I've never been a diplomat. I'm the father of many children. And I don't have a PhD in leadership, but I know what parental leadership looks like, paternal leadership looks like. And if two of your kids are in a brawl, maybe you think one's right and the other's wrong, but it doesn't matter. What do you say? Beat the crap out of him, he's wrong! No. You say, Dad's home, knock it off. And the first thing you do, because you are in charge, not the children, you're in charge, you're dad. The first thing you do is you stop the fighting. And then you take him into separate rooms and you administer whatever lesson or justice you think necessary. But they're not allowed to fight with each other because you're home. Because you're leading your family.
Oh, damn, we're over 10%. Thank you so much, guys. We are 10% to a horsecock.
And there may be a way in which international leadership is totally different than managing a house of 4 kids and 4 dogs, but I don't know what that way is.
It's not that much different, honestly. You're just managing a few 100 million kids.
If you're the leader, the last thing you do is sow more chaos. You stop the chaos.
That's a great point. You don't sow chaos, you stop it. But these people have found a way to, benefit from it, profit from it, get something out of it.
Leadership is bringing order and regularity and predictability to a chaotic scene. Wait till your dad gets home. What, dad shows up drunk and is like, keep hitting him. Bad dad. A man, in fact, unworthy of the name dad. That's not leadership. It's an abdication of leadership. It's a perversion of leadership, and it's disgusting. And that is exactly what, in the name of American leadership, this administration, with the full participation of the Republican Party, is foisting on the world. And it's insane. Yeah, well, I have to say, whatever you think of Trump, he's pretty clear on this. And they hate him for it, actually. They hate him for it. And if I can just say, the foreign policy stuff, which if you grew up in this country, once again, as I did, you're not really used to thinking about because, it's literally oceans away. And they're like all these primitive people out there doing primitive things, tattooing their faces and being, you know what I mean? They're foreigners. Who knows what they do? I get it. I grew up like that. I was proud to be an ugly American, and to some extent I still am. I'll have the pizza, please. Amen. Amen, baby. I'll have.
You know what? Honestly, with this, I don't see too much difference in his opinion on it. I don't see much of a point to stand on ceremony for anything.
Have the pizza, please. I'm an American. And by the way, I'm proud to order pizza in Paris and often have. So it's not, okay, but if you're an American, you don't think about it. And there is this sense in which foreign policy is the one big thing that government does that's not subject to democratic, which is to say voter control. It's it really is about as patronizing as you can get. It really is, shh, men are talking. That's really what they're saying. I'm sorry, you a foreign policy expert? Are you? What do you know? How many years did you spend in the diplomatic corps? Did you go to Fletcher School? I don't think you did. Oh, well, it's my country, actually. And you're doing this in my name with my money and potentially my children.
Oh, but they're the country's children if you listen to Crane Jean-Pierre and Joseph Pedo Pete Biden. It's the community's children. It's not.
So, whether you want my input or not, you're going to get it. But that truth, that democracy requires the public to sign off on wars, is totally alien in Washington. And that's exactly why they like it. It's exactly why they like it. If you were to try to get some, trans rights bill through the Congress, you couldn't get it through. Because people are watching, and they should be, and amen. And the democratic process works that way. probably not going to pass a bill in the United States Congress, even if Democrats control it, that says, you know, basically no more men's and women's bathrooms. We're all going to be in one latrine together and we're going to like it.
Unless I am on campaign and there is a latrine pit, I don't feel like I need to share a restroom with women at the same time.
It's probably not going to happen because nobody wants to defend that. But sending cluster bombs to a government that's imprisoning Christians and stealing.
I wish you would hit on this more. Cluster bombs, cluster munitions are a war crime.
The money, I think that's kind of not your business, America. And so they can collude and do it together. That's the truth. And the fact that Republicans have allowed this, and that even now, and again, even if you think we should be supporting Ukraine militarily, which is, I think, a legitimate, I don't share that view, but I think it's entirely legitimate. And I think there are a lot.
It's a point of conversation to have. I don't agree, but it's still a conversation we could have. At least there could be some back and forth on that issue, unlike other issues that Democrats are pushing.
A lot of awfully nice people who feel really bad for the Ukrainians. I actually feel really bad for the Ukrainians myself and think Russia shouldn't have invaded. I agree with that. But it almost doesn't matter where you are on this question. If you can't have an adult conversation about it, which begins with the very obvious question, why should I be mad at Russia? Like, why? Shut up! If the answer is shut up, or if the answer is to accuse you, an American citizen who loves your country, whose ancestors fought to defend it, of disloyalty to your country by people who care not at all about the United States? It's too much. It's just too much. It's too outrageous to stand. But what I will tell you, if you want to know what really, really matters to them and to you and to the future of the country, consider the things that you were not allowed to say. I noticed this right after January 6th. I'll never forget it as long as I live. As a very literal, not super quick, not highly clever person, I was completely content to believe January 6th was what it looked like to me on TV, which is a bunch of angry people who thought the election was stolen from them, who appropriately went to confront the people they thought stole it. So like George Floyd gets killed and all of a sudden they loot Foot Locker. What did Foot Locker have?
Not Foot Locker. Cause 24 deaths and what? $2 billion of insured damage and then an extra 4 on top of it? Yeah, no, it's okay.
To do with it. I will say, in Republican primary voters' defense, they're mad at the Congress. They went to the Congress. They didn't loot any liquor stores. They just went right to the source. That's true. It wasn't like, oh, they stole the election from us. Let's loot Macy's. All right.
I need some new Jordans.
But anyway, so I saw this and I was like, yeah, okay, it was people super mad. They thought the election, I mean, this was January 6th, so like, it was, you know, it took a long time for me to figure out what happened, just being honest. I think I'm just too old, and so it's like hard to notice when things change, like certain assumptions you have, like, yeah, of course it's on the level. Like, they wouldn't actually like subvert an election.
Would they? Would they?
And as someone very smart said to me, really, people kill each other over insurance claims? This is running the world. Like, what wouldn't they do? Oh, right, good point. Anyway, but I just kind of didn't think too much about it. Like, I'm definitely opposed to vandalism. Anyone who breaks windows is not my friend. I hate that. Have you ever glazed a window? You ever put in a window? It's really hard. I mean it. If you don't think it's hard, try it. You get the size.
It is very difficult.
It's wrong. It doesn't fit. Put little pins in. It's ridiculous. It's like an all-day affair to replace a divided glass door. Anyway, so I don't like that at all. And I said that I don't like it. And within like about an hour, I heard people say, well, that was a racist insurrection. And I was like, really?
What why did people think it was racist? I still don't understand. I have never understood. Why doesn't anybody like the horsecock anymore? I don't understand.
I didn't know race had anything to do with it. I didn't heard one person say a word about race, and an insurrection, call me literal, is when armed people try to overthrow the government. That didn't seem to happen either. So I just pretty innocently said, you know, bad, probably not a racist insurrection. What? Shut up! Racist insurrectionist? And I remember thinking, well, you know, obviously people are feeling hated.
I think, honestly, and I know how this is going to sound, but it was Republicans. It was right-wingers fucking, they were the ones protesting, and that's just illegal. Like something, I don't know.
But like in a week or so, when, you know, the emotional devastation of this second 9/11/Pearl Harbor wears off, people calm down and come to their senses, and you can have like a rational conversation. Trip West, I see you in the front row. Sorry, just saw a friend of mine sitting right there. We can have like a rational conversation about what this actually was and why. And at a certain point, because I really believe in cause and effect, someone will say, well, why were these people so mad? They, you know, none of them had criminal records. They were like grandmoms with diabetes and like a lot of debt. They're the least powerful people in our society, like legit the least powerful. And why were they so mad? Like, why did they take the bus from Tennessee to go jump up and down in front of the Capitol? Like, something probably had better things to do. And then maybe if they think that the election wasn't fair, we will sit them down in a very calm, rational way and be like, I get it. We said that Biden won by 81 million votes. There's 15 million more than Barack Obama. It seems like a lot.
And how many counties overturned their stuff?
Considering he didn't campaign and he can't talk. But you know, there was just something about him. It was that magic, and you know, maybe you didn't feel it. It's like pistachio ice cream. It's not a flavor for everybody. But the people who like it really like it, 81 million. So settle down. And by the way, we have...
You know what? I feel like it would have been a hell of a lot less of an issue is if when anybody asked about it, they were like, oh, well, here's how it happened. Instead of going, fuck you. You can't ask that. Why would you think you can ask that? Clearly, it was legitimate. Like, if you could just explain, like, why he was so popular, I feel like that would have been a lot better.
The source code in the voting machine software, and we've looked at it. And it's...
Aren't those 3 a.m. votes a little weird? Shut up.
Totally on the level. We've double-checked. We wouldn't let, like, an electronic voting machine hide their software from us. Like, never do that. And the drop box is like totally monitored by law enforcement, and every person who voted had to prove he was who he said he was with a government-issued ID. Like, settle down. And I would have said, fair enough, because I want to believe in our elections. Who doesn't? And in fact, the people at the Capitol on January 6th are exactly the ones who most want to believe in our elections. They're the ones who carried the pocket constitution. How many CNN anchors like deeply believe in the American political process? They put you in a camp if they could. Shut up. They have no interest in the process at all. But the people who really believed in it were naturally the most shocked and the most upset to believe it wasn't real. But anyway, I thought we would have that conversation at some point. You know, I never supported,
No, God, no.
and I will never support vandalism, period. But I did think, well, maybe the upside, this, Ashley Babbitt's killing, clearly in retrospect a murder, you know, it'll amount to something. We can have a national conversation about this. And I'm completely for national conversations. But every year they promise us a national conversation, well, on race. We need a conversation on race. Okay, shut up! Okay. National conversation means no one's allowed to talk, except the people who called for the national conversation.
A national conversation is not. It is a national lecture. Play.
And they never stopped talking. But anyway, we never had any conversation about that. In fact, anyone who tried was deplatformed, debanked, basically hounded out of public life in America, bankrupted, in a lot of cases put in jail. Yeah, or fired. Oh.
Remember they wanted control of, what was it? They wanted to go after the banks so they could control the bank accounts of the people that they were accusing of being there.
Pretty funny! Anyway, excuse Sorry, I was so into it, I like lost all self-awareness for a minute, sorry. But we never, not only do we not have that conversation was literally banned. Now it's in the guidelines of most of the big social media companies, you can't have that conversation. So I would make a couple of points. And the most obvious one is, any country that doesn't allow a free discussion of the process by which its leaders are elected is not a democracy, by definition. A country without free speech is not a democracy. Free speech is a prerequisite to democracy. You can't have it without it. You can't have a dinner party without dinner. You can't have a democracy without free speech, period. So there's that. So whatever you tell me, and by the way, isn't it, it's so interesting, and narcissists are this way, the projection involved. It's like whatever it is they're doing, and I mean at a precise level, is exactly what they accuse you of doing.
It's very easy to tell. It's very, very easy to tell.
You're attacking democracy. Really, I like democracy.
I needed that so good. Well, at least you know this one will match your request. May it grant you patience. Thank you so much, Dark Will. Guys, give it up in the chat for Dark Will with the very, very generous 110. Greatly appreciated. That is very good violence. Now, for a Christmas marable, I want to see Mailman's 90 one more time. One more time for the end of the week. That's all I want. Thank you so much, Dark Will. Greatly, greatly appreciated, my dude.
Without money and without a TV show, some
yeah, that was violence and violence.
Voice in how they are governed. Therefore, I'm for it.
I beat you to it, Baba Yaga. Even Baba agrees we need the 90. She was the one who unlocked it.
And they want exactly the opposite. So the middle class in America, which has been not the majority since 2015, an anniversary that nobody noticed.
We most certainly did.
Has less economic power than it's ever had.
Lamau, I love it. I think the 90, that one, the 110, is probably my favorite donation I've ever made. Let's try that sentence one more time. I made that 110. That's probably my favorite donation I've ever made. The 90 is Mailman's best donation so far, bar none.
That's why Trump got elected, in my view. And now it has less political power than it's ever had. So if you are taking power away from large segments of your population, you are by definition attacking democracy. That's exactly what you're doing. There's no other name for it. So that's the first thing I noticed. In the name of defending democracy, we took away the things we need.
Mailman said, cry, pray hands, thank you. Hey man, you're the one who did it. Thank you.
Need to have democracy.
Guess I'm not getting my birthday present to me. What's that?
Which is our core freedoms guaranteed in the Bill of Rights.
Is it your birthday?
In our war for democracy, we are supporting a government, paying for the entire government that has banned opposition parties, put opposition leaders in jail, shutting down.
Today's your birthday, just another guy?
Down free speech, now shutting down an election, and putting dissident priests in prison. It's such a democracy they don't have elections anymore.
Guys, give it up for just another guy. Happy birthday, buddy. What did you want?
That's how pure a democracy it is.
I got myself a present, but it hasn't shown up. What'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get?
But the second thing, and what's I think
Did you want a Wick the Halls?
More applicable to this conversation, I learned, is that their response was the tell. If you want to know what they care about, if you want to know what's important,
Luna said, name a dono, dude, I got you. Ooh.
Listen to how they respond when you say something unapproved about it. So
a game and a system. Nice, dude. Nice. I'm glad you liked it, Ham and Beans. It was a good fucking movie. Frankly, based gates. Okay, you know what? I'll go through on the back and I'll turn on the regular donations just so. Loading. Luna, wait. Okay, now you can. Now you can do the based gates.
So if you were to, I don't know, write a post on Facebook tonight and say, I think Papua New Guinea is the most powerful nation in the world, you would get not a single response other than someone's been smoking weed again.
I don't know what my response to that would be, quite honestly. Guys, big happy birthdays in the chat for Just Another Guy. Blah, blah, blah. I mushmouth the shit out of that. Big happy birthdays in the chat for Just Another Guy. Fucking awesome.
No.
What's the amount, Sin? I don't have any of that open right now. Hold on. Uh-oh. No. I don't remember what. Give me a second.
No one would care. It's like demonstrably untrue. That's why the flat Earth people have been able to cruise beneath the radar for so long.
I am almost at fucking 2,000 subs on this channel. It's so fucking cool.
Because and by the way, I'm not discounting that possibility for the record in case any are here, because I am an open-minded man. Present me the evidence of its flatness and I will amplify it. But the point is, when something is clearly or very likely untrue, it poses no threat to anyone. What's scary and what will
4238. 4238 for the based gates.
elicit a response are true things. No one is punished for lying.
Based gates is best. No, based gates is top 5. For sure, top 5.
People are only punished for
Stop activating sticky keys. I'm not. I'm control F to search quickly.
telling the truth. You could literally wake up tomorrow, move to the Bahamas, start a fake cryptocurrency, defraud 1 million investors around the world of billions of dollars. I'm just saying you could do it, and I'm not recommending it. Note to the FEC, not recommending it. But you could do that, and you could get caught.
Best chat online, bar fucking none.
People might have like a balanced view of you. He's really smart, good guy, got a little over his skis, as we say. But like, I'm not gonna hate on him, right? We all make mistakes. Like, who here, raise your hand if you haven't defrauded 1 million investors with a fake cryptocurrency?
Me. My hand's up. My hand's up. If it wasn't for Luna, I wouldn't have been able to.
The last public opinion poll I saw showed Congress had an approval rating at about 9%. By contrast, Muammar Gaddafi had an approval rating at 13%, and his own people dragged him in the streets and killed him.
Fuck yes. Luna, happy birthday, Just Another Guy. Hope life is treating you well, sir. Question mark, question mark. Thank you so much, Luna, giving Just Another Guy a wonderful, wonderful birthday gift. And, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to turn the Christmas ones back on, but thank you. Thank you, Luna. Luna now 3rd in the lead for the Stacker Club. But no, I have not been defrauding investors. If it weren't for Luna, I wouldn't have been able to pay for my mom's fucking funeral. I wish I were defrauding investors. I'd have enough money to get away with it and buy my own.
Impoverishing people.
Did you go for the Amazon overnight gimmick? Because I swear to God, they just say that, but don't fucking do it anymore.
starting totally counterproductive wars we can't win that kill a lot of our citizens, leaving the border open so 7 million people can walk across. Those are not small things.
That's true, Poltergeisha. We only defraud on Thursdays. I'm usually doing background work on Thursdays, just standard shipping. Boo. What game did you get? What game did you get?
Like, it's not all like forgetting to fold your napkin correctly at Thanksgiving. Those are like actually kind of world historic crimes. Never punished. What are the crimes that are punished? Thought crimes. Thinking the wrong thing, having the wrong beliefs, saying unapproved words. And those words are always true.
Do you ever notice they don't ban ideas that aren't fucking true? They don't ban stuff. Elected to get Fallout 4 was a digital. That's a pretty good game. I liked Fallout 4 a lot.
They are always true. So when you hear somebody, and by the way, it's so hard to know what's true. I mean, often, to the extent I ever talk to people, which is fairly rarely, no, but like, you know, going through an airport or something, I hate the news. It's all so dishonest. Where do you get your news?
God bless. We are almost halfway to goal, guys. I implore you to smash that like button, share it out on your social media, and should you feel so inclined, you can follow the steps of some amazing people like Luna, Darkwill, C. Thomas, Culta Krill, Faustonia, and Fucklesnuck. Hit up that Streamlabs. We always crave violence in this chat.
I always try to be honest and say I don't get any news. I don't read any news. Are you joking? I haven't had TV in like decades. I wouldn't read the New York Times at gunpoint. I don't want that in my head. Do you know what I mean? It's like worse than porn. It's horrible. And it's just bad for you. You know, you don't put untruth.
It's bullshit, and it's bad for you. Monica is pretty low on HP. If you guys band together, you could overthrow Monica tonight. Silence is violence. Well, we do have some silent night violence. Poltergeisha said, violence is my love language, please and thank you. Ooh, guys.
Things in your head on purpose. So
I'm sorry, just another guy.
How do you know what's true? Well, that's a great question. And in fact, it's like the only question really in life. And the honest answer is you can't really know because you're not God. And so I think it's super important to approach everything with the requisite humility, acknowledging that these things are very complicated and you can't really.
It ain't your fault. Or is it? Well, I don't think so. It could be. It's possible. They might have walked up with your game system with game digital package and seen you watching this and been like, what the fuck is wrong with them? And turned around and left. Sam said, oh my gosh, Sin is calling for violence. I am, specifically at the $90. The 45 is good too, though, but 90 is mailman's magnum opus.
Know. And at some point, probably the second you die, you will know. And that's definitely the upside of dying, in my opinion. But in this life, you can't, and you're never going to, and you're a lunatic if you think you can imagine the future or divine the precise truth about anything. Because you can't.
He mugged the delivery man at the sorting center. I said, I know where this is going. You give it to me right now. God damn it.
And by the way, anyone who thinks he can is likely to become Mussolini. Like, that's a bad path. If you wake up in the morning and think,
Or, if you think you can and you don't turn into Mussolini, you turn into that little engine.
The only person who possesses the truth, you are clinically insane. So seek help. But within the bounds of our abilities as people, you can get pointed in the direction. Where's the North Star? You can get there. And how do you know? And it's really simple. Who are the thought criminals and what are they saying? What are they saying? They're saying crazy things like the water's turning the frogs gay. What a crazy person.
Well, it turns out
pay $1 billion.
It was turning the frogs trans. It was changing the gender of the frogs.
Water's actually turning the frogs gay, that's true.
You want the moon?
Years later they tell us.
Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'll give you the moon, Mary.
I'll take it.
Aw, that's a good one. I forgot I had, like, good heartfelt donations, too. Aw. Thomas the Tank Engine? No, it was the little engine that could. I swear to God, that was the name of it. I swear to God. Wait, what is this? Keep your lasso to yourself. I will lasso whatever I want to. If I knew how to lasso, so help me God. Thank you, Luna.
That is true. Yeah, it's actually true. I'm not endorsing any specific person's theories about anything, but I am telling you that the people who sent.
I forgot that Christmas is supposed to be a heartfelt, fun holiday. But if you look at all my new donations compared to my old ones, it's violence and blood-filled.
Censor your words and thoughts. This is one thing I'll say about them. They have a very precise and well-calibrated sense of what's important. They know. These are not frivolous people. They can smell like your dog can smell. Like your parents could smell in high school if you smoked a Marlboro. They know.
Yeah, trust me, you weren't getting away with that shit. They just didn't care.
What's important? They don't waste any time in the unimportant stuff. And so I would honestly say a lot of the debates we have, and certainly a lot of the ones that I've engaged in.
Ooh. Big screen. Oof. That is just chef's kiss. It is just absolutely chef's kiss. That's an old one. That is literally a brand new donation. Still got the new donation smell on it. Oh, fuck yes. Just Baba Yaga, I can't afford the Stacker Club, so I'm creating the Honker Club, which you get by sending a wick. Okay, I'll write that one down. I'll set that to the side. That's not bad. That's not bad. Guys, give it up for Baba Yaga and give it up for Mailman for the incredibly awesome fucking donation. Incredibly awesome donation. Thank you, Baba Yaga. Get a big thank you to Baba. Get a big thank you to Mailman, to Luna, to Darkwill, everyone who supported the show tonight. Through Streamlabs fuckery that no matter what I do, I cannot seem to repair, the double damage has been done to Monica. And she is sitting at 13,000 HP. That is well within striking distance. Maybe I'll turn it down by half because it's doing like double damage. So maybe I'll turn the dollar donation stuff down by half. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. I'll try it though. Call it the Candle Club because you're sending a wick. That's pretty good.
Probably diversions from the things that really matter, honestly.
I do like a play on words. But thank you, guys. Luna, Darkwill, Baba, all of you, thank you, guys.
And that may account for why every time I was out of the country last week and I came back and I feel like I've got a duty to be up on the news, read all these texts, and like everything I read is like a new height of insanity. I'm like, that is the Mount Everest of lunacy. It can't get
Luna, see,
any crazier than that at all. Breastfeeding men or whatever. You know.
Why can't we have a fart club then? I'll tell you what. If someone hits the 99.99 when Miss Sin is on the show, we can have that conversation.
We're gonna give back Nebraska to an Indian tribe that no longer exists. We're not doing that, by the way. Omaha's safe, but I'm just saying. Every one of these stories enraged me. And of course, that was probably the point. I really believe that the exponential growth of totally irrational claims by the other side Things that no sane person could, I mean, beginning with men can give birth, but there are a million of them. That these claims are actually designed to take people like me and send us off into a screaming fit so we don't know.
Wait till you see it, Sam. Wait till you see it. Whoops.
That actually they're looting the country. I think that. I don't think there is a single member of Congress, except like maybe the dumbest, maybe Ocasio-Cortez or something, but the normal one.
I mean, she is the dumbest by far.
Or semi-normal ones. I mean, grading on a curve. I don't think there's a single Democratic member of Congress who cares at all about trans rights. I don't think there's a single one who thinks men can breastfeed, because like not one in history ever has. Quite a bit of evidence to the contrary on that claim. I don't think they believe it. I really don't. And by the way, it's super important.
I don't think these people believe half of what they say. They just know their constituents want to hear it.
Important to push back against them and to call them crazy, because they are. I'm not saying a retreat from these things at all. I'm merely saying if they throw a story in your face that's so nuts that you can only growl like a dog in response, they're probably doing that on purpose. And you should probably look around and ask yourself, what are the topics that no one's even pushing back on? What are the topics that their response is so ferocious that people are like, I don't want to deal with it? One of them is the war in Ukraine. Another's COVID. And, of course, the third is January 6th. And you have to ask, why is that? Well, it's not by accident, trust me. There is a reason. So, what'd you say? I don't know what, you know what, the thing about that story, it's just a mystery to me.
Oh boy, here we go. Oh, God bless. Oh boy, oh boy.
No one was more shocked than I was. Are you serious? In the Biden White House, somebody left an 8-ball of cocaine in a public. I was like, I said to my wife, that just doesn't, it's just not in character, you know? I just don't believe it. It's clearly a setup. I went right back to Marion Barry and I was like, somebody set you up. I'm serious. It was, you know what I mean? It was like, it was so, I'll stop with it. That was my favorite story of all time.
I think it's got to be my favorite too. That has to be my favorite story ever. That somebody just accidentally left cocaine in the White House and they have no idea who did it. The most secure building ever created. Probably 1,000 cameras in each hallway, and nobody knows who left an 8-ball of cocaine in the White House. The FBI is stumped. The Secret Service have no idea. Okay.
Because it just explains all the behavior. It really does. I mean, I worked in the media business for my whole life, so I know what the behavior looks like. But it's like crazed and grandiose. I've got a plan. You're not going to believe it. It's unbelievable. It's going to totally work. What we're going to do is we're going to totally rearrange everything, okay? We've been doing things a certain way for a long time, okay? And it's worked, but I've got a better plan. And that's their entire approach. So if I can just give you one piece of advice, after 27 years in the television business, don't trust a man with numb gums.
I like it. I like it. All right. We did. Let's take a look at Vivek. We didn't watch Vivek last time. Let's see what he's got to say.
Have you heard of
No, I have not heard of whatever it is that you're trying to sell me. I don't know if we'll be able to watch the whole thing. I'll speed it up. We'll see. Shit, guys. We are 125 away from goal. 125 from goal. And the like ratio is not bad. But smash that like. Share it out. Monica is hanging on by a thread. If you want to take Stream Boss before the show's out, you know exactly what to do. Smash like, share it out, slabs down below. We can get a horse cock at the end. Or a song. Maybe both. We'll see how jaunty we're feeling at the end of it. Let's take a look at what Vivek has to say.
A number of 2024 Republican presidential candidates recently spoke with
1.25.
Tucker Carlson at the 2020 president.
You're the only person running. Is my mic on? No. You're the only person running who hasn't run before. Not on?
Before, yeah.
Let's get a producer on the stage.
Yeah, I've had that mic set before. Not that one, but...
You put the batteries in the correct way. Okay. Is that on? I love it. So Vivek is the only person running, I think, who hasn't practiced politics for a living. Correct?
Yeah, I'm not a practitioner.
No, you're not. You're not a practitioner. So it's interesting. So let me start with a very quick overview. You've been
John Wick is Violent Jesus. We have some Violent Night donations down below, too.
traveling around the country for the past, 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah, 4 months.
How do you think the country's doing?
I think the country is doing poorly, is the answer. I think that we have a void in our country. I'm the first millennial ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. And
Well, time being linear, it's going to happen. It was going to happen one way or another.
I see people my age in particular across this country who are not doing well because we're starved for purpose and meaning. The people are looking to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and yet we've lost the things that used to ground us. Faith, patriotism.
I vote song, saw enough horsecock watching Jeopardy. We'll let whoever, if somebody hits it, we'll let them decide.
Hard work, family. These things
well, not hits it, but pushes us over.
Gone. And so we're lost in the wilderness. And then we latch on to whatever the other side serves up for us. You know, we could wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, whatever it is. These are symptoms. Drug addiction, depression, suicide, you name it. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning in our country. But Tucker, I think the good news in that is I think our country's not doing well, but I think that this is also our opportunity as a movement to level up and fill that void, that vacuum, with our own vision. Individual, family, nation, God. When I talk to young people about this, they're more interested in that than they are in race, gender, sexuality, and climate. And so now we got to start running to something as Americans, and if we do, I'm confident that our country will be doing well again. That's where I'm at.
Is it my...
Okay, what is the downside to this guy? Because I know there's something out there. What's the downside?
My imagination, or people who weren't raised in traditional religious households, who haven't spent a lot of time thinking about theology, all of a sudden talking about God a lot. Do you notice that?
I do notice that, actually. And I think this is a good sign because there's an
No, not that he's Indian.
old expression, right? If there's a hole the size of God in your heart and God does not fill it, something else will instead. That's what's happened in the last decade in our country. Something else, some
He's too good to be true right now.
secular religion has filled that void. But it hasn't really satisfied our moral hunger. Right? And so that's kind of, that effect is fading, and I think people are hungry to turn back to the real thing. The conversation's coming up, but they say it with a kind of prudishness.
Yes.
Is he on Adderall? No, I have it sped up.
Right? God is a four-letter word. It's sort of a thing you have to tiptoe around. And I think that right now, family's the same way. The nuclear family makes some people uncomfortable when I say it, but actually this is the best-known form of governance to mankind. And so if we start talking more about, hey, that's what we're running to. That's actually what we stand for. Yes, we are one nation. I'm a citizen of this nation, not some nebulous global citizen somewhere else. That it is one nation under God.
Inexperience, yeah, okay. That's pretty. That can be pretty damning.
Yes, it is a nation that is stronger when we ground ourselves in the unit of the family. Then I notice something happens, especially for younger people across the country, Tucker, is they're more open to that message than they thought, but they need someone to serve it up to them. And I think I'm the first non-politician, but I'm also a younger person in this race. I don't have a ton of experience running governments before. But I think in reaching younger people, that's something I feel called to do in this race, and it's why we're traveling college campuses across this country. And I am optimistic about what I see.
Well, since you are a younger person and spend time with them, we saw yesterday that a group of reservists has been called up to Europe, apparently, to prepare for war with Russia. Of people in the age cohort who might plausibly be called up to do that, what's the response?
I think there is no basis for us to send our young men and women, our sons and daughters, people my age or any age, to go defend somebody else's border halfway around the world, when we should be using our own military to secure our own border in this country. And I will not apologize for that.
That's just, yes. Yes. I said it earlier, and I mean it to my core. We don't need to send our children to die for Ukraine just so our politicians can keep getting paid. Fuck all the way off.
We have to put the interests of this country first. And one of the things that does frustrate me, Tucker, is that this is one issue where I so love many of the other people who are running for this nomination for president. I think most of us, and the entire field I speak for, are in this for the right reasons. We are people who care about our country and want to deliver our country to a better place. But on this issue, nearly our entire field is indistinguishable in practice from where Biden is on this, which is in an undefined, ill-defined way pouring more money into a war that I think is destined to become Vietnam or Iraq all over again. And if you don't learn from the lessons of the past, you're going to be making the same mistakes on an even larger scale going forward. We have to end this war. We can end this war and start prioritizing.
We can end this war right now by stopping giving them hundreds of billions of fucking dollars.
Prioritizing the interests of actual U.S. citizens here at home.
So I think, judging by the response you just got, I think a chunk of, I don't know what percentage, but a lot of Republican primary voters agree with you. Not all, but a lot. I don't think any Republican donors agree with you.
I think that's accurate. And I've lost, to be really honest with you, I've lost many large donors or prospective donors over this issue. And it puzzles me, because I think the tempting thing to say is to have some conspiratorial explanation that they have money at stake in government contracts.
He's 39. 39 is still a millennial.
Actors, Raytheon, or whatever. I don't think that's true, actually. I think there's something else going on in the psychology of an establishment in both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party that is reluctant to the idea that we somehow can't be the ones fighting the war that's the popular war of the day, the politically correct war. I think there's no such thing as a politically correct war. And so
there isn't. Anything that causes children to die for somebody else's profit is not politically correct. Full stop.
what I ask is, how are we actually going to end this conflict in a way that advances U.S. interests? And the thing that puzzles me, Tucker, is nobody in either party is talking about this right now. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat that the U.S. actually faces today. And we are pushing Russia closer into China's arms by actually continuing to arm Ukraine. So what I've said is that I would negotiate a deal that ends the Ukraine war, frees the current lines of control. Yes, that means giving part of the Donbas region to Russia. I would make a hard commitment that NATO never admits Ukraine to NATO.
NATO should never admit Ukraine. Yeah, NATO should never admit Ukraine because Ukraine would almost immediately provoke Russia again. That's just a fact.
And those seem like unspeakable words in certainly the Republican donor class. But we get something greater in return.
I'm 46. What am I? A MILF?
Which is that Putin, in that case, would have to exit his military partnership with China and remove nuclear weapons from Kaliningrad, which border Poland, and get the Russian military out of Cuba and Venezuela and the West. And this is a deal that Putin should do because he ends up winning. He gets things that he doesn't have today. But it secures American interests, too. And I do think, in a weird way, it does take an outsider to get that job done. Because if you want someone to fix a problem, you don't turn over the keys to somebody who actually broke the thing in the first place.
If someone crashes your car 5 times and they ask to borrow it again, you're not going to give them the fucking keys. You're going to tell them to shove off. Kick rocks, buddy.
Fix it, maybe have somebody who didn't break it in the first place, and that's part of why I'm in this race as an outsider.
Okay, well, since you're getting radical now, let's go through a list of all the other things you're not allowed to say. So you've just said, you know, you're not attacking anybody, but this doesn't seem to be helping us. In fact, it seems to be creating an alliance that we can't beat, and really, it's pretty scary. So let's go through the list. One thing you can't say is that maybe January 6th, while appalling on one level, maybe it was not an insurrection.
So let me talk about, I haven't talked about this much in the campaign. I'll be very honest with you. You want to know what caused January 6th? There's such a temptation to say that there's one man whose name is unspeakable.
Well, no, first of all, it's QAnon. It's QAnon.
It's QAnon. You want to know what caused January 6th? Is pervasive censorship in this country in the lead up to January 6th. You tell people in this country they cannot speak, that is when they scream. You tell people they cannot scream, that is when they tear things down. And so the reality is, we were told that
people will have their voice heard one way or another. You might as well let them say it.
You could not question where the virus came from when we all knew it came from a lab in Wuhan, which now they admit. We were told that you could not send a private message to someone on the eve of an election that Hunter Biden's laptop story was actually a true story worth considering before an election. You were systematically suppressed. So think about this. You told you had to be locked down, had to take a vaccine that was mandated and forced down your throat, stay locked down in your home while Antifa and BLM roam and burn the streets of this country. So that's the lead up of 1 full year of telling people you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told. And then you tell them, okay, there's an election where you didn't get the information that you needed, such as the Hunter Biden laptop story being real and suppressed.
Very real, and still suppressed.
That's what caused January 6th, is a cycle of censorship in this country. And until we look ourselves in the mirror and admit truth on that, we will not move forward as a country. And I think that's the real cause. And we're not, and I'm sorry to say this, Tucker, but I think until we reckon with that reality, I worry that that is the beginning of, it's a friendly parley compared to what's to come, unless we step up and speak truth, restore integrity, and actually lead us to who we are as a people, rather than sweeping the truth under the rug.
How can you, just as a philosophical question, a lot of the people who are pushing censorship, in fact, I would say almost all of them, in both parties, particularly the Democratic Party, claim they're doing...
And don't forget that. Don't forget that it is both parties.
So in order to protect democracy. But how can you have a democracy with censorship?
So you want to know the best measure of the health of a democracy? We're a constitutional republic, but I'll use lowercase d democracy as a fill-in, right? Couldn't resist.
People always applaud at that. I love that.
It's just the truth, though, right?
No, it is true. But the civics majors love it.
Yeah, that's great. But the best measure of the health of our American democracy, our constitutional republic, is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public. That's the metric. It's not the number of ballots cast every November. That's just going through the motions. It is not some other metric of what
December 24th, all my birthdays are Christmas. Oof.
the media says on a given day. It's the percentage of people who will say in public what they're willing to say behind closed doors. There's no doubt we're doing poorly. The culture is censorious enough. Now, if you say the government on top of that is using social media companies to do through the back door what government could not censor through the front door under the Constitution, that creates the real threat to lowercase d democracy. My litmus test is if Vladimir Putin was doing it and we would call it a threat to democracy, it's a threat to democracy when we do it on this side of the Atlantic as well. Okay, that's
Guys, the amount of times I have to say this, if Russia did it, it would be a big issue. When we do it, leftists defend it. This is not a good way to live.
good way of not pointing the finger at somebody else, but looking ourselves in the mirror and asking ourselves who we really are. And this is personal for me. I'm a Republican candidate for U.S. president. It feels still new to say that. Not a politician by nature, but I bring that fact up. You know, now, as of very recently, certainly polling reasonably well in the recent polls. And I bring that up because against that backdrop, Microsoft owned LinkedIn, censored my social media account. They locked my account, said I can't get in to make statements that are factually grounded statements about climate change, about Biden's relationship with China, about the ESG movement's perpetuation of a climate cult in this country, all grounded in fact, saying that it violates their policies for hate speech, misinformation. And I'm not making this one up. They said violence in the email. And so in my case, look, I was able to publicize that. They then claimed it was an error, restored the account, typical operating procedure. But it's that culture of censorship in our country that I think we also, I'm trying to do my part, where I was in Ottumwa, Eastern Iowa, earlier this week. Smaller event than this, but we're on the stage talking. Somebody walks in. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. At first I thought, usually if they're screaming, sometimes they're in favor of what you're saying, so I said, thank you. But I realized that actually, no, she...
When she bit you?
She came... So she was out of control, okay?
Yeah, I know her. I ran into her at Dulles Airport last week. Yeah.
We've all seen a version of her, but the truth is, so security was escorting her out, and it felt wrong to me, right? Because she came here to make a point. She was totally wild in the way she was making it, but I'm watching her walk out the door. She's at the back of the room now, and I said, this doesn't feel right, right? Because as I said earlier, you tell people they can't speak, that's when they scream. You tell people they can't scream, and she was screaming. That's when they're going to go tear something down. So I said, no, bring her back. We gave her the mic. I said, I promise. You ask your question, but I promise I get to answer it in return. She agrees to that. It turns out she's a pro-choice advocate, a my body, my choice person. I was going to the state legislature on Tuesday morning. I think she must have known that. Came to this event. to protest my being there. But I give her the mic. She's just talking for, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But by the end of it, it actually turns out, the story comes out that she's a single mother who did bring her daughter into the world. And the things she was saying were things like, my daughter is successful. I don't want you to look down on me. And I thought it was beautiful that the more she started talking, the more she started making our very point of why we believe in protecting life. And so I said, disagreements aside, you are a...
See, that's something I'm not there with, but that's me. I don't need to force my opinion on other people. They don't need to force it on me.
We celebrate that. The audience applauded. It's why I love Iowans.
Wow.
She broke down in tears and left. And so I'm moved by what is possible in our country. Our country is broken. We are spiritually broken. We have a spiritual void in this country. It is our job to step up and fill that void by practicing what we preach as conservatives. And so I'm hoping we're doing that. I love doing that in Iowa. It's been something that's really lifted me up in a way that was never an experience I had as a CEO or in business. I've never had these experiences as we've had in the last few months. And honestly, as broken as our country is, it leaves me optimistic about where we're headed.
And you can listen to
I feel like we're headed toward a better place.
people. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not going to hurt you.
So what? Okay, so it's so interesting. So you,
But it's going to get worse before it gets worse. Then it might get better afterward.
and I think the intro of you described some of it, but you're coming from a completely different world. It's not like you were mayor, state legislator. You're coming from business and technology and biotech. So what have you learned? How have your views changed since you immersed yourself in crowds of voters and started listening to people?
Yeah, so I think my views have changed in part by my belief that we're not as divided as they make it out to be. Right? Because many CEOs in this country are frightened, right? If speaking their mind openly, it actually stops many of them will say, well, stops them from being donors to me, to maybe other causes. They're deathly scared because they believe that we're a nation at our breaking point. And in some ways, we are, because we let it get there. But one of the things I've been convinced of, I've changed my mind on, is that I don't think we're nearly as divided as we're taught to believe. But I went to the south side of Chicago. It's one of the places it's not really where the political advisors would tell you to go if you're in a Republican primary. I went to Kensington and downtown in the inner city of Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And I'll tell you, the people in those rooms, especially on the south side of Chicago, where they're converting South Shore High School into an encampment for migrants who they're spending $7,000 per person per month on.
And our high schools.
This is the supposedly far left, nearly entirely black, Democratic voting bloc. And I have never heard more eloquent cases for securing the border and actually prioritizing the interests of Americans than I heard in that room.
What did they say?
They said, what about us?
Yeah.
It was actually the right way to say that. And it came out in many ways where, look, we are Christians. We believe in treating these people humanely. But it's not right that they're spending $7,000 a month and getting baby formula when I couldn't find baby formula a year ago. I can't buy sneakers for my kids. They're providing sneakers for those kids. How does that work? How is that advancing my interests? And actually, you just reminded me of this. Many of them were asking me, as though I was on the side of it, of why on earth we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. So it was interesting to me.
This has become number one on my list of should I look for in a candidate. Are they pro-Ukraine? And then we'll figure the rest out from there.
That the traditional partisan boundaries as drawn are really sort of retrofitted. We're sort of shoehorning an old structure, we're sort of shoehorned the modern truth into sort of an antiquated view where I don't think the dividing line in our country is between Republicans and Democrats right now. I think it is between those of us who are pro-American, who believe in the ideals of this country, who will not apologize for those ideals, who will stand up and sacrifice for those ideals, and those of us who are, and it exists in this country, I mean, the Vice President's a great embodiment of this, anti-American. Those who wish to apologize for a nation founded on our ideals. But if you divide it up that way, it is not 50-50 anymore. It's not even close.
Remember the first thing Obama did when he got into office was go on his great American apology tour?
It's easily 80-20 in our favor, and half the 20 are people younger than me who never learned what those ideals were in the first place. We're going to bring them along too. And I think we have an opportunity to do in this country in 2024 what Ronald Reagan did in 1980. Deliver a landslide election, call the bluff on the division. Much of it is artificial. I fell for it, right? Even when I started this campaign, I'm running for a Republican candidate for U.S. president, I don't even talk about Republicans that much anymore. I try not to use the word. Not because it's a bad word, but because it doesn't mean anything. Right? If half the Republican, 3/4 of the Republican Party's got the same policy as Biden on the most important policy matter of
3/4? No, much more than that.
Of our time. You know, and if much of the Democratic Party or at least people on the south side of Chicago believe in using the military on the southern border and putting the interests of Americans first, I'm not sure those labels are doing much for us now. And one of the things, I actually just got this stat yesterday from my campaign, 40% of the donors to our campaign are first-time ever donors to the Republican Party in any form ever. And the normal number is 2%. So I think this should actually give us hope for possibility. If we're willing to take the shackles off a little bit, relax a little bit on thinking, identity can be confining. Right? The left does this masterfully. You're black, therefore you can't achieve something. You're a woman, therefore you can't achieve something. Identity is confining. You can be imprisoned in the identities that you inherit. And I just want to be careful that we learn from the left, or learn, including what not to do, to be confined and imprisoned by our own identity of what it means to be Republican. Let's just let that word go and instead ask the question of what it actually means to be an American today. That's the question of our time.
That's a damn good question.
And you ask people my age that question, you get like a deer in the headlights response. It's like, it's a blank stare initially. But on the other side of that,
what does it mean to be an American? All right, chat, what's your answer to that? What does it mean to be an American to you? Because to me, it means enjoying freedom and understanding that it is a God-given right when we are born that we get these freedoms bestowed onto us, and the possibility that we'll have to fight for them one day.
Then an introspection to say, okay, there are certain ideals that we fought a revolution for in this country. Self-governance over aristocracy, sovereignty as a nation, free speech, meritocracy, that you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and contribution. That's what it means to be an American. That's what we're running to. And honest to God, Tucker, I think that if we do this right, if we actually prioritize our vision, what we stand for, I think it's going to be a landslide election for I'm not going to say Republican candidate, a pro-American candidate in this race.
It's just interesting because what you didn't mention, so I asked you, you've been traveling around the country, it sounds like you've really, I mean, you went to Kensington on the south side, you've really kind of been to the span of the country. I watch media coverage and everything's about race. And America is divided by race. That's America's original sin. It's the thing that cleaves us as a country. You didn't mention that. So why do they keep telling me that?
They blow what I call woke smoke to deflect accountability for their own failure, actually. So what do you think affirmative action has done for black people in this country? Nothing. What do you think? It's been negative. It's created racism that otherwise would not have existed.
And that's a fucking fact. God bless. I'm glad someone said it.
I've seen it. I've hired black executives at companies I have founded on merit. I could care less for the skin color. And then behind closed doors, people say, well, that person got their job because of race, because they're jealous because they weren't good enough to get the job. But that is sad. It's unfair to everyone involved. They'll blow woke smoke. They'll say math is racist. When in fact, you know, what might be wrong is not teaching kids in the inner city for a year under COVID lockdowns how to do math. And then they're using this to cover up for that failure. I personally think that's actually what's going on in the U.S. military, too. Right? People wonder about where's this wokeness in the military coming from. I mean, our military has been disastrous in defining its purpose, how we're actually using the resources of a military to fight wars that we haven't actually shown great value from in the last 25 years. So let's just talk about systemic racism and white rage instead. It's a deflection mechanism. Companies do it. The military does it. Schools do it. Teachers' unions do it. It's irrelevant. And in fact, what would they ever do without those poor black kids who they could hold out as the sacrificial lambs for their own failures? Oof. What we actually need to do is to level up and say, no. Regardless of the color of your skin, how are we going to be a country that ensures opportunity? Black, white, man, woman, doesn't matter. You know, my parents came to this country with almost no money. I've gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. And then people tell me, oh, that's because you had privilege. They tell me white.
Oh, Asians, Indians, and white people literally have all the privilege.
Privilege. It's sort of weird. It's sort of an interesting. It's kind of interesting.
Do you tell them?
I take the blindfold off, and now you have your answer. But the interesting answer is, actually what I do tell him, Tucker, is that I did have privilege. I didn't grow up in money, but I had two parents in the house, a mother and a father, with a focus on education and a faith in God. And you know what? That is the ultimate privilege. That if I'm going to enjoy that, every kid in this country ought to enjoy it too.
Do you think, I just have to ask you this, because you're not a political professional, do you think Biden's going to be the nominee?
So it depends on who the Republican nominee is. I'm running because at this point, actually, my heart says, I couldn't have told you this in February. I launched on your show, and honest to God, when I left, I had no idea how this thing was going to go. My gut instinct is that I will be the nominee and in a position to win this in a landslide versus Biden. And they will not let Biden run against me. So I believe that if I am the nominee, they will not let Biden run. It is why they're holding in the back pocket the documents case against Biden. It is why they're holding in the back pocket everything else that you're wondering why they're not charging or bringing now. It's not a Democrat or Republican thing. It's a managerial class, deep state bureaucratic class versus elected official puppets thing. And so they're not going to have to use that if it's Trump because they think based on, they don't analyze, they analogize. They say we did it. We can debate that, but
there's not much of a debate on that one. America, living in the U.S., loving the country, distrusting the government, understanding how the government works, while appreciating that appreciating all that one can do while finding personal fulfillment. I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you, C. Thomas. It's very good.
We appear to have done it. We appear to have done it, and so we'll do it again. So if it's Trump, they're going to run Biden. If it's me, there's no way they let Biden run. It's going to be a new puppet, Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, you name it. It doesn't matter to me.
Has Gavin Newsom announced yet? It's just a matter of time, but has he?
Though, because for me, whoever it is, I'm not running against anybody in this primary field, and I'm going to keep that philosophy in the general. I'm not running against whichever puppet they put up, Biden or somebody else. I'm running for our vision of what it means to be a citizen of this nation, the United States of America.
No, not yet.
Leading us to something, and nobody else is going to get in the way.
Thank you.
This guy's very good. This guy's very good. With that exit, we will have our own guys. I need to go get food. I don't know if you can hear my stomach rumbling or not, but I am big hunger. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Thank you for an incredible show this evening, guys. Amazing donations, everybody. Thank you all. I will see you tomorrow for the AAA meeting on Polydub's channel, supposedly around 5:30, somewhere around there. Keep an eye out. We will see you all in the next one. Good night.